Hello, I'm Kenneth Kinney, and welcome to another episode of An Education That Works, where every week Victory University brings together profiles of leaders in our community who've gone on to achieve phenomenal success in their careers after earning a college degree. Well, if integrity and trust is important to you, then today's guest comes with a better business background than most. After earning his own college degree, Randy Hutchinson went on to a successful career in the banking industry. Since then, he's gone on to now head the Better Business Bureau of the Mid-South, an organization that both protects consumers and businesses. Their mission is to be the leader in advancing marketplace trust. With him, I discuss how higher education, as well as integrity and trust in the workforce and workplace, along with the Better Business Bureau, can help have a huge impact in our community. So join me now with Mr. Hutchinson for some better business strategies on An Education That Works. All right, welcome to another episode of An Education That Works. I'm here with Randy Hutchinson, who is the head of the Better Business Bureau of Memphis and the Mid-South. So, Randy, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk a little bit to our community about, what the Better Business Bureau does and how it's helped set the example for a lot of people in the area who are not only just looking for jobs but considering businesses and things like that. So, if you will, tell us a little bit about your own background,
Okay.
Where you got your degree and how you've gotten to where you are today.
Okay. I'm originally from the Washington, D.C. area, so I grew up there, went to school up there, got an undergraduate degree at Western Maryland College in Maryland and an MBA at Wilmington College in Delaware. I was a banker for 25 years, and banks in Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, and then moved here in 1991 to join First Tennessee, where I spent the last 8 years of my banking career.
Mm-hmm. Well, how did you get from there to the Better Business Bureau?
As I said, I was a banker for 25 years, enjoyed it. Great business, great company. First Tennessee is still a great company in Memphis. But really kind of got to a point in my career that I wanted to do something different, and was fortunate that financially I could do something different if I chose to. My family supported me, and so then I actually took a couple of years off. I went back and brushed up on some computer skills and some other skills I thought I might need for what I thought I might do. Did some consulting for about a year, banking consulting, actually back at First Tennessee. And then had just about the time in 2002, when it was time to go back to work for sure, was fortunate to meet somebody who knew somebody on the board of the Better Business Bureau, knew that they were looking for a new president, and threw my hat into the ring and was fortunate enough to get the position.
Well, how do you think your education helped you get to where you are? I mean, when you look back on not necessarily the classes you took or any individual skills, but overall, how did your degree help make you a better career person?
Well, I don't know that I'd say it's so much the degree itself. I had a business degree, a master's. I'm not so sure, though, unless you're in a very specialized kind of business, scientific math, something like that, that frankly the specific degree is as important as that you learn some general skills. And what I would say is probably the most important, and again, I'll speak to my experience, is that you keep learning.
Right.
I mean, I got my college degree sort of in the normal time frame, got out of high school, went to college for 4 years, got the degree, but really throughout, particularly my banking career, I continued to go to school. I took courses through an organization, I don't even know if it's still around, called the American Institute of Banking in those days. But then had the opportunity to go to a 3-year banking school. It was 3 years during the summer, a couple of weeks during the summer, a lot of heavy-duty work through the year while I was working, but brushed up, got new banking skills. I guess I was probably 38 when I went back and decided to get a master's degree. And then even into my 50s, I'm old enough to have passed my 50s. But even then, right after I left the bank, decided I needed to go back and brush up on my computer skills.
Sure.
Develop them. Frankly, when I left the bank, I couldn't turn a computer on. Okay? I say that with humor now. In those days, perhaps a little bit of shame. But But I went back and took typing at the age of
Right.
whatever it was, 50-some, word processing, Excel, some other skills, so that I could compete in whatever I
Absolutely.
wanted to do going forward.
Well, a degree, it's a lot like a Better Business Bureau stamp in a lot of ways. There's obviously some differences, but it does lend some credibility. It doesn't necessarily mean that a business can't act wrong if they have that stamp.
No.
It doesn't mean that somebody with a degree is necessarily going to be the smartest person in the room, but it does show, especially employers, that people have made that commitment.
I think certainly all things being equal, the more education you have, if you have a degree, as you said, it besides what you've learned, it demonstrates the ability to commit to something, to finish something, to accomplish something. It doesn't necessarily need to be a 4-year degree. It can be a 2-year degree, an associate degree, the different kinds of degrees, a trade school degree. But I think it, in addition to whatever you learn that may help you become a better performer in whatever your career is, it's something. And that's another reason why I think it's important, if you can, to continue to learn in whatever fashion.
So you're in one of the most respected organizations out there. It's one that we all look to for credibility. Victory University is now a member of the Better Business Bureau as well. You have a lot of people that probably come to you, as well as your own son did, asking for advice on what kind of things do they need to do to help them in their career, to help them if they're entering or considering schools in university. What type of advice do you give people like that?
A couple things, and let me talk about education first. As I said earlier, this is my opinion. Other people may differ, but I think get a degree, certainly in something that's useful, but I think getting the degree is certainly every bit as important as necessarily what it's in, unless you're going to go into a very specialized field. Keep trying to learn. I think something that gets missing today that you can learn in school, learn outside school, and I have to confess that I see it with folks I've worked with, people even my age, younger people, are communication skills.
Right.
I will tell you that to some extent, good, bad, or different. Again, this is a Randy Hutchinson opinion, perhaps. Writing is becoming a lost art, and therefore, if you have that ability, it becomes quite a skill to have. And to some extent, the same is with speaking skills.
I decided to go back to school because I wanted to reinvent myself. I have a bachelor's already in business resource development, and through the years, after working in the auto industry, I just felt like it was time to reinvent myself. My major now is psychology, and I chose that field because I feel like my purpose is to help someone. And with that being said, I think I want to branch off even into helping children. I enjoy attending Victory University because it's also connecting me spiritually, and it's helping me to grow spiritually as well. I've also been able to learn how to think more critically. And so those are some of the things that I enjoy about attending Victory University.
When somebody asks you for advice on a degree, they probably, you have the pulse of the business community, and you know how to, you see a lot of the ratings, if you will, that come through businesses. Do you ever give advice that speaks to the people that you know around you as to consider this company, they're a good company based off of what you know about them as part of the Better Business Bureau?
Yeah, I think I can answer that in a couple different ways. I do get, and enjoy doing it, folks calling me to get advice, trying to network into companies, I've got to be very careful
Sure.
that I can't be talking to too many folks in them in too many companies and abuse relationships that I have. But it's important to, and this is where it sort of overlaps a little bit with what we do at the Better Business Bureau. It's important to get with the right company.
Right.
Check out the company, be sure that their values match yours. We're not seeing it, knock on wood, quite as much as we did probably 4 or 5 years ago, but you recall some of the biggest successful, if you measured success by revenues, by earnings and whatever, some of the biggest, supposedly most successful companies, in fact, were very unethical. Enron, WorldCom, there's others that are escaping me at this point. Knock on wood, I'm not sure that we have very many of those here in Memphis.
Sure.
But, to speak a little bit to the Better Business Bureau, we are in the business of trying to steer consumers to good businesses, away from bad businesses, and the ever-increasing number of scams. But the vast majority of businesses are good, ethical companies. Unfortunately, there's just enough bad ones and more than enough scams to keep us busy.
Well, I've told people before that one of the resources they check out. You talked about some of the companies. I mean, we know that FedEx is a great company. We know that
Better Business
another
Bureau.
neighbor, Service Master, is a great company. There's International Paper. There's so many great companies in Memphis. I have told a lot of people not only just to think about their reputation, and so many people are worried about getting a paycheck that they stop kind of at that cursory look at reputation, but to check out the Better Business Bureau as well. To if you're really wanting to investigate a company and look at it as somebody as a potential employer, Better Business Bureau is a good resource to get additional information.
Well, and I'll tell you, and again, not only you want to be sure that if it's a real company, all the ones you mentioned, real companies happen to all the ones you mentioned be great companies. But unfortunately, we're just seeing an increasing number of job-related scams. And the crooks follow the headlines, and unfortunately, high unemployment continues to be in the headlines. A lot of people desperate for jobs, perhaps can't be as picky as you could be when the employment situation is better. But I remember reading a case recently of some lady that was desperate for a job, responded to an online ad, sounded great. She provided some information. They came back and said, hey, you're hired, but you've got to pay some fee for some background check or something. And she paid the fee. And it's a scam. Generally, if you're asked to pay money up front like that, it's a scam. But after they took her money, she emailed the person back and said, how can you do this? I was already desperate, and you've taken my last penny. And she got a response back from the crook that says, that's what I do for a living. And that's the sort of situation, unfortunately, that we deal with, but that's a job-related scam.
Well, whether I'm a person looking for a job, a student considering a school, or just a consumer, what type of advice do you give people when they're investigating a business? I mean, you'd like to think a one-stop shop is trying to go to bbb.org/Memphis, but what other resources do we have to sort of check out?
Well, these days, certainly far more than in the past when I was job hunting years ago, you've got the internet, you've got Google. Go there and check out, even, we say check them out with the Better Business Bureau. We tell you check out companies on Google. We're not the only source. So check out an employer. If you're not given the opportunity to have a good in-depth interview with somebody there, I don't want to say that may not always be possible, but that's a good thing. And ask a lot of questions. Frankly, an employer is going to ask you a lot of questions. But if you're not equally engaged, and you're not asking them, and it's not apparent to them that you really want to be sure they're the right company for you, you may not get the job. They want that to be a two-way street. So take that opportunity. If you're interviewing, if you're checking out a company, go in with as many questions as they're going to have for you.
So if you had to look at your personal idea of the pulse of Memphis, and you look at where the growth is in this city, especially with companies that are coming into the Better Business Bureau, what are the kind of industries that you see that are new members and growing companies that are getting involved, so that students of any age, because we've got a lot of daytime students that are typically 18 to 22, and we have a lot of nighttime students, which are people that went back, didn't finish their degree, which is such a huge population in Memphis, and they go back later. What kind of industries are you seeing come in that are new good companies coming on board?
Well, I think I can answer that, but from a Better Business Bureau perspective,
Sure.
but then more from just observing the business scene perspective. The Better Business Bureau, we've got companies of all sizes, 3,500 good member companies that support us, like to have every other good company support us. They tend to be smaller ones, tend to be, we have the whole gamut, but tend to be smaller ones, not necessarily the ones that are moving into town. So let me address that. Certainly we're not in the economic development business. The chambers do that. There's government agencies do that great. We've got our role, they have their role, but we overlap at times. And certainly the companies that I see coming in, Electrolux, some of the others, great companies that, however, as I read, back to the educational issue, as I read, they're saying even at a time of relatively high unemployment nationwide, and Memphis's unemployment is higher than the national average. And yet they're having trouble finding skilled people.
Right.
So that's another case where wherever you are in your career, whether you're a young person just starting out or somebody farther along, look for opportunities to go back and get whatever the current skills are that somebody like Electrolux and some of these other companies may be looking for.
Being a professor is a magnificent job. I'm really grateful every day to wake up because what I get to do is just interact with students and with ideas. That students, by and large, are there because they want to learn. They recognize the value, the importance of education, the value of ideas, and they come curious. And I love ideas and talking about their implications, their ramifications. As a theologian, I love theology, talking about who God is, how can we know anything about God, and really digging into hard questions. I think when we have life as we go, where we encounter these questions about meaning and God and purpose and truth, we tend to sort of grasp for an answer and find the closest answer at hand. But what I like about being a professor is it forces me to have to stay current and read a lot of books, read articles and essays and talk with people, and it allows the students to sort of have this obligation where they can't just come to just the simplest answer or the thing that they heard as a child. They have to really think through and defend, use logic, use critical thinking, and defend their answers for why the world is the way it is.
So as I mentioned, I'm asking questions to Randy Hutchinson, the head of the Better Business Bureau, but I'm asking your personal opinion based off your impressive career experience that got you into an impressive job. What kind of advice do you give colleges and universities in our area that'll help better prepare, better leaders in our community that hopefully will lead Better Business Bureau companies, people, members of Better Business Bureau, represent good companies in our area?
From my observation personally, it's not so much a Better Business Bureau issue at that point, but my perception is that the colleges, universities, other educational institutions in town are already doing what needs to be done, which is partner with the businesses to identify the skills, identify what their needs are, offer those sorts of classes. Perhaps, what we see in the paper mostly is somebody big coming into town and saying we need this particular skill set, and you need to respond to those, and the schools are. But there's a lot of small businesses in town who are also hurting to find good employees, and so anything that can be done, I don't have the answer, but I'll pose a question, anything that can be done to reach out to smaller business organizations and find out what they need and form those sorts of relationships, I think would be productive. And let me turn it around, not exactly responsive to your question, but advice for the students. And this, again, comes somewhat from personal experience. A lot of people from a very early age have a grand career plan, and that's good. And if you know you want to be this, and that's what you're going to aspire to, that's wonderful. But it isn't always necessary. I know I probably, when I came out of college, I had no idea I'd go into banking. Certainly didn't know what Better Business Bureau was. I think what young people need to do, in particular coming out of school, starting careers, give 110% to the one you have. There are some folks at the job that you have. There are some folks who are so focused, if you will, on the career ladder,
right,
getting to that particular position and what's the next step, that they neglect to give 110% to the position that they're in. And my experience is if you do that, in many cases, certainly in my case, the opportunity will come. I may not know what it was, but it will come.
What does it mean to be a Victory Honor student? It means a lot of things. We get to have service projects. We go to events locally in Memphis. We get to go to abroad trips, service trips, learning trips. We get to meet once a week, twice a week sometimes, and kind of immerse ourselves in critical thinking. It's the best decision I've made.
I'm sure a large growth in the members that have become, members of the Better Business Bureau have been newer startup companies. I mean, there are only so many companies with 30,000 employees in town, and there's a lot of that entrepreneurial growth. You just mentioned something about an overall focus on career, and like most people, a lot of the skills that they talk about needing developed for our future leaders in our community, our communication skills, are a good broad-based education. They're not so much skill-based, although we hear in the news often that they need more skills for those types of jobs that often have gone overseas. Why do you think there is that discrepancy, that so many people who are in the seasoned experience perspective talk about the things that have helped them in their career, but very rarely refer back to specific technologies or specific skills that are specific job focused?
I think it's because, again, a piece of advice to folks is be flexible, get as much education as you can in as many different disciplines as you can. Some of the people I do talk to, and I read articles, sometimes that's my source of information, the same as everybody else's, the media, is that while some companies are looking for a very specific skill, I mean, some do have to have some very defined technical skill, but more what they're looking for is people who have an aptitude that they can train. Mm-hmm. And so you want to be able to present yourself as trainable. You want to be able to be flexible, do different kinds of things, demonstrate a willingness and interest in learning more things. And if you're willing to learn, there are probably employers there who are willing to train you. And ultimately that will lead to a good position.
Well, so if I am specifically somebody starting up a company or starting up a franchise or anything like that, why is it good for a business leader in a community to join the Better Business Bureau?
We're about ethics. I mean, if I had to boil it down to one word, it's ethics. It's a business doing the right thing. Not that even the best of businesses sometimes run afoul of their customers and run into a problem. So the fact that a company may get a complaint, that's not even an issue to us. It's more, how do they deal with it, and do they try to resolve it in a good faith manner? Mm-hmm. But it comes back to a business doing the right thing. And there have been studies that have been done that people say ethics, having confidence in the company, and I'm talking beyond just customer service. I'm talking about company values. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I'm dealing with a good company is more important to me than price. Mm-hmm. More important to me than some of the other things that are traditionally viewed as the decision factors when somebody's buying. And frankly, surveys have been done the same for employees. They want to work for an ethical company. So if you're an ethical company, you're going to get more customers, you're going to get happier employees. That becomes a very virtuous cycle that just ends up making you a better business.
Well, and so much of the advice and oversight that your group gives to consumers is just as applicable to employees.
That's right.
So, well, if you're looking back on your own career, what is your crowning mark of achievement that you're most proud of over when you look back now?
Boy, that's always a great question and a hard one to answer.
Sure.
I'm not saying I can point to one. I will say that I had a wonderful banking career, enjoyed it, had a certain level of success, but was very fortunate to get the opportunity to join the Better Business Bureau, an organization I knew almost nothing about before I came on board.
Sure.
And everything, and most of what I knew probably was a misconception. So I've been fortunate, not only because of the position in the organization, but it does give me an opportunity to get out into the community, meet a whole heck of a lot of people in a lot of different disciplines, and just promote, help this organization. A lot of good people that work here. Promote a good ethical working environment in Memphis and the Mid-South. We cover about 28 counties in the Mid-South.
Well, it's a very necessary role that you and the Better Business Bureau are doing, and I just want to thank you for being on An Education That Works.
Okay.
So if you or anyone you know was inspired by today's stories of integrity and trust, as well as helping build better businesses in our community, or even if you simply want to earn your own college degree and help possibly change our world, then I urge you today to go to aneducationthatworks.com. On behalf of Victory University, thank you for An Education That Works. You'll remember these days forever. That sense of pride and the years of accomplishment in your hands. The friends and relationships that will last a lifetime. Victory University offers a quality Christian education with degree programs that can fit your schedule. An education that cares, an education that believes, and an education that works. This opportunity has never been closer, but you must act now. You're almost there. What is your victory? Join us for An Education That Works this and every Tuesday at 8 a.m. on KWAM 990 as leaders in our community discuss the secrets to education and career success as we present some insightful advice on helping you best prepare to change our world. Join us this and every Sunday at 8:30 a.m. on Local 24 as leaders in our community discuss the secrets to education and career success. Victory University presents An Education That Works.